went to the Queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective. It is Monday, and we're glad to be here. Big fight weekend this weekend.
Yes.
Fight week. Big fight at the White House this weekend. Yeah, big fight. It took me a while to get the words out. I don't know. It's Monday morning. For Razor checking in early, Idaho checking in, potatoes, freedom, and apparently a UFC fight at the White House. Yeah, there's a big old fight at the White House. Like, it sounds weird to say that, but there was a big fight at the White House. A couple of them, a couple really big, nasty fights. So anyways, yep, we had a big weekend. The celebration for America's 250 years is definitely kicking off. I don't know how Trump pulled it off, but he had his birthday yesterday and UFC fights and a peace deal with Iran. How great is that?
Excellent.
Amazing day. Are you playing with the sound again?
I am.
What's wrong with the sound?
It just sounded like we were in a can all of a sudden to me.
It sounds like we're in a can every day.
I'll just quit worrying about it.
Pony Boy, good morning. Thank you for the spoiler alerts on the Telegram chat. UFC at the White House wasn't on my bingo card. It wasn't. Oh, it wasn't. So we're going to do the simultaneous sip to get things started off. And during the simultaneous sip, we're going to listen to some of the counter programming. So while the UFC event was going on, the Democrats hosted their own counter programming event to try to rally the troops. It's exciting. It's definitely worth taking a listen to. They had a huge band and, really rocked the house yesterday with their counter programming. So for the simultaneous sip, all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug, or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. This morning, I'm drinking beer, root beer, that is, Dad's root beer. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. It starts right now.
Oh, you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. The fascists, let me put you straight. When you come for the rest of us, we'll fight you at the gate and you will lose. You fascists bound to lose.
Ooh, that's the counter programming.
What? What's that? Was that Bette Midler?
That is Bette Midler singing. You fascists are bound to lose. That's the counter programming during the UFC fight. That's what the Democrats are putting on.
That was awesome.
Apparently, they're vying for the boomers. They want the boomers to vote for them. So they're singing about the fascists.
Looked like Branson, Missouri.
It was pretty rough there, wasn't it? Just me _ Pacific Northwest. Now it sounds like we're in a can run.
Yeah, bad.
It's bad. Just me _ Pacific Northwest said something, and then you covered it up with the soundboard. Hold on just a second. Let Ron adjust the mics. It's important. He says, "Happy Monday." Actually, you think I could have memorized that before you covered it. Carlene says, "Good morning, y'all. Glad you guys are here." All right, MS Now, they reported on the big fight at the UFC. Apparently, this felt like the biggest thing in news over the weekend, even though we did strike a peace deal with Iran.
This weekend will mark a brand new low for America in the eyes of the world. Also marks a new low for Donald Trump and his now well-documented record of showing disrespect and glee for destroying the country's most iconic and historic symbols and pretty much everything the country has stood for. Trump is hosting a tragically tacky UFC cage match on a massive stage that he constructed on the south lawn of the White House. We've reported that here on this show. Late today, a federal judge is allowing the fight to proceed. Tonight, Donald Trump is kicking things off with a UFC press event, and tomorrow an official weigh-in where the fighters have to get on a scale, I guess, make sure they make weight, and that'll happen
get on the scale, I guess. It's a UFC fight, lady. Come on.
In front of the Lincoln Memorial, the site of Martin Luther King Jr.'s iconic I Have a Dream speech in one of our nation's most hallowed and storied and visited locations.
Oh, this just can't be.
In a work today about Trump's UFC fight. Quote, I do think it's an event that captures something about this moment in our history. After all, it's vulgar. It is violent. It is commercial. It's grandiose. It's tacky. And it dishonors a place once thought worthy of care and respect. In other words, it's Donald Trump.
These guys seriously sound like somebody is pissing in their Cheerios. I'm so upset. The funny thing about this is I remember sitting in prison when this event happened. I was in Philadelphia. So on the left hand here, you've got during the Biden administration, they had an LGBT event at the White House.
Yeah.
And this is when there were actual transgender people running around on the White House lawn without their shirt on, like full breast implants and everything, like flashing people around the White House lawn. Drag queen story hour right there on the White House. Obviously, there's the columns with the LGBT flag colors. So that was one thing. I remember sitting in prison. Almost everyone in there, the black guys, they're all Democrats, right? This is like the zeitgeist, vote blue no matter who crowd completely. And they're looking at this event and they're like, what is that? They are so upset that Biden's hosting a bunch of transgender queers at the White House. It's like, hey, you guys realize this is like what you've been voting for the last couple cycles, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, you contrast that with the UFC fight event on the right. Which was really incredible. Footage from it was awesome. What you're hearing now is the Biden White House in the background. And there's the flyover, which is really incredible. We talked about Trump and his parties. They just do it big, man. They do it big. We had a couple interesting things that did happen. One of the fighters, after his fight, he went and talked to Joe Rogan. Probably the first time Joe Rogan has ever put on a tie. Madam M in the chats, good morning. Glad you're here. John Attackis, production value was just not the same for the Democrats' counter programming. Ponyboy says, hello. It was a huge event and it was iconic. Yes, it was. Doug Wyatt says, good morning, peasants. So this was one of the fighters after his fight. Joe Rogan was doing the interviewing. Of course, Joe Rogan was at the White House. Got to have him there for the. It
looks like he's doing like a Randy Macho Man Savage type thing.
Yeah. And notice how Joe Rogan's wearing a tie.
Yeah.
This is the first time anybody can ever remember seeing Joe Rogan in a tie.
Oh, I've seen him in one.
Have you?
Yeah.
He always talks about never wanting to wear one. Makes me wonder if it's like a break-off tie.
Yeah.
Ron, our sound is bad.
I know.
It's bad. Is it bad to you guys on the stream? Can you guys hear it? So anyways, this is Joe Rogan interviewing one of the fighters who just won. And, maybe this was a little harsh.
Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Oh, man.
That's not the first time we've heard that either. As you guys can all remember, Joan Rivers got that party kicked off back when she said this.
Miss Rivers, how are you? You made a ton of news officiating the wedding in New York yesterday. Is this like a new cottage career move for you?
I'm so excited. And I should do very well because I don't show.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman
we
president?
already have it with Obama. So let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans. We all know.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
Transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. It's okay.
So who knows? Anyway, we would always thank Joan Rivers for starting that conspiracy theory because it's one I'm not sure we're ever really going to know, right? But it definitely raises enough eyebrows around some of her film, some of the way the camera angles have caught her at certain times in certain outfits. It kind of makes it kind of funny, but it's now become part of the zeitgeist. It's just a way to make fun of the Democrats, is make fun of Michelle Obama, Big Mike, as they say. And it's funny when you hear different people say it, like Rudy Giuliani will say it, or some other people who, you kind of want to take seriously, and they'll throw it out there, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, maybe there's smoke, there's fire. Who knows? Who knows? So, yeah, Ponyboy says, yeah, Ron got his alter ego. He calls himself an incredible Hello Kit. Who's Ron? Is that
Whole Kit?
Whole Kit? Oh, is that the spider? Yeah, I haven't followed UFC this year at all.
I haven't either.
It's been a couple years.
Did you watch this event?
No, I didn't really. I
Me
mean, in
either.
fairness, I did not watch it. I was
No.
busy doing some other stuff.
Yeah, like dishes.
Like dishes, show prep. I was doing show prep. So the whole point of this UFC fight is to try to increase Trump's standing amongst young men.
Okay.
CNN covered this yesterday with regards to Trump's approval rating.
Politics is a big part of this. You know, UFC's audience is 68% male, and most of it's under age 54. It just so happens that men under age 54 or under age 50 are a key target demographic for Republicans in this election. Trump won men by a dozen or so against Kamala Harris, but he only won young men by about one, and they tend to vote infrequently in midterm elections. So Democrats can mock this all they want, but the UFC audience is the audience that the president needs to reach for Republicans.
Well,
That's true. It just needs
Politics
a
is
little
a
bit more
big part
turnout
of it.
amongst young men,
Yeah.
and could make all the difference. The other people who need to turn out and vote are Christians. Christians get in their own way a lot, thinking Jesus is just going to come save the day and then sit out this election cycle.
You mean like the first time he came?
Yeah, the first exactly. First time, second time, people still waiting. This way, he'll come and fix it. He'll come and fix it. Anyways, so the president we did get a peace deal this weekend, and this is really confusing because it feels like it's minute by minute. We had a peace deal. Everything was going to be signed around, and then all of a sudden, Israel bombed Beirut, and Trump was cursing out Netanyahu, telling him he's a effing fool, and what are you thinking, bombing right on the night of a peace deal? Apparently, there were some additional concessions made to Iran. Iran decided not to direct Hezbollah to counterstrike, and the peace deal's on. So as of this morning, the peace deal is on, and the Strait of Hormuz has been immediately opened.
All right.
So that's pretty good news. So let's check in with Trey Yanks to kind of get filled in on the events of the day and the evening.
It was signed, it was nearly derailed. The Israelis targeted Hezbollah with strikes in the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Iranian officials immediately vowed to respond with missile fire toward Israel. A diplomat with knowledge of the situation told Fox News that Qatari mediators stayed in Tehran conducting intensive negotiations coordinated with the United States. Vice President Vance described to Fox News what those final moments were like before the agreement was reached. Could you take us behind the scenes of what that moment was like leading up to this deal actually being signed?
After the Israelis struck Beirut, we were very worried, and we saw a lot of evidence that the Iranians were going to launch a large number of missiles at the Israelis. With our communication with them, with getting to this signed peace deal, they assured us that they were not going to respond to the Israelis, and they were going to sign this agreement and get to peace. Now, of course, you always have to verify these things, Trey, and we know that there are a lot of people in the Middle East who do not want to make this deal happen.
I spoke with President Trump before the agreement was reached, and he was optimistic about what this deal means for the region. We also know the president got directly involved in ensuring that the Iranians didn't launch missiles at Israel before the agreement was finalized. Guys?
So what do you think the vice president was referring to? Is there people in the Middle East that don't want this agreement? Who doesn't want this agreement in the Middle East? Is that a veiled shot at Israel?
Certainly, there are many Israeli officials who are not happy with the deal. When you talk privately with intelligence officials here in Israel, they indicate they do want an agreement, but they want the right agreement. And the Trump administration has tried to tell the Israelis, look, this is ultimately going to ensure that the Iranians never have a path to a nuclear weapon. And again, what are we looking at here when we step back? We're looking at an agreement that is going to, on Friday, immediately open the Strait of Hormuz. And it's going to also enter into a 60-day detailed negotiating period to address these nuclear issues with the Iranian regime. They are committing to not having a nuclear weapon, but ultimately the International Atomic Energy Agency and others are going to be part of the interworking here in Iran on the ground to ensure that this highly enriched material is removed. And when I spoke with the president yesterday, he talked about how difficult it's going to be to get what he refers to as the nuclear dust that is currently buried deep underground. He says the Iranians told the United States only the U.S. and China actually have the equipment and ability to do so. But when we look at this agreement, the Iranians didn't get what they wanted. They wanted U.S. forces to leave the Middle East completely and abandon all bases in the region. And that's not going to happen as part of this deal. We know that U.S. forces are going to remain at the 5th Fleet location in Bahrain for the U.S. Navy. Also, the Al Udeid base outside of the Qatari capital of Doha. There are thousands of U.S. forces there. And so even if there is an eventual drawdown of the U.S. military in the Middle East, there will still be thousands of forces here prepared if the president has to use military action in the future. But remember, as part of this deal, there is this economic leverage on the Iranian regime. They're not going to get the sanctions relief that they so desperately want and need if the United States doesn't get everything they want out of these detailed negotiations. And so they're going to have to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and move forward with the commitments that they made at the negotiating table as it relates to their nuclear program. Guys,
so this is excellent news. I mean, the Strait is opened. Trump said, as of right now, the Strait's open for business, right? Everybody's in and out, including the Iranians.
Huge pressure relief.
Yeah, and this is really not good for the Democrats. I mean, they really wanted this conflict to last. They don't have a problem with extended conflicts. Just look at Russia and Ukraine.
Decades.
No problem with extended conflict. So they really wanted this conflict to last deep into the midterms. And obviously, you know, we had the CPI number that came out yesterday or last week, which basically inflation's up. But why is inflation up? Because of the product shock on the cost of oil, right? It's not inflation because of government spending this time. It's inflation because actual prices are going up. So that's interesting. So another big thing that's happening is this next week is the Fed board meets on interest rates.
Yeah.
So traditionally, inflation goes up, they're going to keep rates high or even put them up higher. But what Peter Navarro was on the War Room talking about is he's like, hey, this is not inflation that goes up because there's too much money printed, which is why you would want to turn on the interest rates. This is because of a cost. Don't raise interest rates going into a supply shock inflation cycle, right? Like that would be bad. You need to loosen inflation to pay for it.
It'd be like putting on the e-brake.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting, but there's a lot of old school indicators that they would raise interest rates, which would be the exact opposite from what Donald Trump really wants. Now, the other thing that's been going on is there's been a whole series of stories that have been planted to try to degrade the United States' standing in the Middle East, that we're, you know, we don't have enough weapons. That's been a big issue. There's been a whole other series of rumors.
What's the source of all that?
You know, a lot of it's probably Iran, but you have the left media too, who's really just, it's the TDS syndrome. They just do not want Donald Trump to succeed.
So weird.
So on Face the Nation, Pete Hegseth was being asked about the stockpile issue, because this is something that's come up a couple times, is that America's out of missiles. Apparently, that's not the case.
It's just with the stockpiles right now in private industry.
That is a manufactured story that the media wants to peddle. And ultimately, our stockpiles are great, and they'll only get stronger because of the way this president has.
You testified under. Is this with the stockpiles right now in private industry?
Pete Hegseth says that whole story about our stockpiles being depleted was just a manufactured story. It was totally made up, which I don't know, man. I tend to believe that. I tend to believe that Trump, this isn't like a trust the plan kind of thing, but it's like Trump's very well aware when he said fire off the missiles that they had game planned out all the different things that could happen and how many missiles they would need to complete the job. You know, I don't think Trump approached this like, we're the biggest, baddest military in the earth, and we just win everything by default. I think they came in with real strategic planning on this. I think they knew they were going to be dealing with cheap drones. I think they knew they were going to be dealing with a decentralized IRGC. You know, I think the only thing that maybe they couldn't game plan on very well was the zealotry and the religious ideology that they were up against, where the Iranians, despite their best interests, would want to continue the fight just because, right? That they're more than willing to strap dynamite to their chest and be martyrs.
Pretty hard to plan for that.
Yeah, I think that if there was one thing that they were short-sighted on, it was that. I don't think that they didn't plan out the military engagement very well, as evidenced by the fact that this is like, you know, 20,000 to 1 kill ratio in this conflict. It's pretty incredible how much they got done with such little loss of American soldiers. I think the total count's like what, 13?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't get that wrong. You know, you hate to forget someone who was lost in battle, but I think the number was about 13. Now, nearly derailing this entire peace deal, in comes Israel.
These strikes, and he apparently called Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to say, "What the F are you doing?" Netanyahu posting birthday messages today to Trump on X in response, Despite Trump insisting there's going to be a deal signed today, Democrats on the Hill are speaking out, really critical and skeptical of all of this. Listen.
I don't know if you heard, but we ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon, something that we insisted on. That was the whole purpose.
Okay, that wasn't the right soundbite. I meant to say Senator Jack Reed saying that he believes there's going to be a deal, but the president really just wants to give a birthday present to himself. Tomorrow, the president arrives here for the G7 in Evian, France. Not too far away from Geneva here. He'll address economic growth, illegal immigration, artificial intelligence, among other things. He also plans on meeting one-on-one with the leaders of Egypt, Qatar, and UAE on the sidelines of the summit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also attending. He just posted this, that he talked with Trump, discussing things that could help bring about peace now. And I informed the president, he says, about the latest developments on the battlefield and how our position has strengthened. We agree that we will discuss more during our meeting at the G7 summit. Here in Geneva, let's talk about those protests. Shops and hotels all across the city here.
That's pretty good. What the F is he doing? He also put out a tweet or he leaked, I think, to Axios, that Netanyahu doesn't know what he's doing. He has no judgment. It's pretty bad. Pray the Rosary Daily. Happy Monday. Glad you made it. John Atakis says, your mom and I watched the last 4 fights together last night. Oh, that's fun. So the other thing that was going on, we had Operation Midnight Hammer, which was last summer when we took out the nuclear facility. Then we had Operation Epic Fury, which was the barrage of missiles that were taking out all kinds of Iranian defense system. Bitcoin miners, killed the Ayatollah, left us with the gay Ayatollah. And then we moved into Project Freedom. So Project Freedom was trying to help ships transit out of the Strait of Hormuz. So we'd get wind early on, 2 boats got out, 4 boats got out. But apparently, under cover of darkness and under total media blackout, ships were being escorted out of the Strait of Hormuz in pretty rapid fashion. And Pete Hegseth addressed this. Trump broke this yesterday, says at night we were taking boats out and we took out 22, we took out 20, we took 80, rattled off a bunch of numbers from the previous nights as to how many boats they took out. This totaled up to over 100 million barrels of oil.
By the way, I think your viewers need to remember, Project Freedom never stopped, and we've run 125 million barrels of oil through the straits, and Iran couldn't do anything about it. How many ships from Iran have transited our blockade? Zero. We have controlled the straits this entire time.
Right,
this
you're going to negotiate with them to
immediately and gradually
reopen it. So,
by the way, I
think what we're going to find looking back in retrospect on this conflict is it was completely one-sided.
Oh yeah.
That the United States with its little brother ally Israel just dominated the battlefield space. We controlled the skies, we controlled the sea, we controlled all of it. Like all the little things they did, a lot of it was psyops. Like they planted a couple mines in the Strait of Hormuz, but the propaganda around those mines really scared off Lloyd's of London and some of the others, but they didn't really get that much done. They did very little real damage to the countries around them that they launched missiles at. When I hear some of the numbers on the missile strikes, like at one point, 110 missiles were headed straight to the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they shot them all down. Wow, that's total dominance. You know what I mean? Like Iran's like, we just need 1 missile to get through, and United States is like, should have doubled the numbers. You know what I mean? Like there's just no way it's going to happen. I think that we're going to look back and we're going to see this as far as a military conflict. This is going to be the
problem. Is those numbers probably were doubled.
Yeah, I'm trying to think a good comparison. Right. Like when we talk about an advancement in military weaponry and military might, one of the things that happened after World War II and then we went to Vietnam and Korea, the United States was actively engaged in organized conflict overseas. So we got extremely good at logistics, getting bullets to the soldiers deep in the jungle. We got extremely good at calling in medevacs. We got extremely good at calling in air support.
We have a military industrial complex that has a supply chain like you would not believe, Taylor.
I know. It's incredible. We got really good at it. So in Gulf War I, right, when we invaded Kuwait, pushed Saddam Hussein back from Kuwait, the Chinese sent ombudsmen, they sent observers to go watch what we were doing. And they wrote about this. You can go read about this in, different Chinese intelligence type things. It's like public knowledge. But they came back and said, we will never defeat the Americans on the battlefield, the white devils, as they call it. We'll never defeat them on the battlefield. They're too technologically advanced. They're too coordinated. They work in unison. It's just, the coordination between ground troops, tanks, A-10s, even all the way back to the Navy ships launching in cruise missiles.
Yeah, they're like,
right?
How do you say shakana?
How do you say shakana? It's too much. It's too much. And so China has focused on more subversive methods of, fighting, right? Using a lot more psyops and intelligence. And of course, they ramp up their military. They ramp up their defense as a deterrent. I don't think they ever really intend on using it. And if you do intend on using it, we've already proven between Venezuela and now Iran, Chinese radar systems, Chinese launching systems, garbage, right?
And if we haven't figured it out yet, maybe the biggest weapon they got is the economy.
Yeah, that's about it. So I think what you're going to find is, looking back on this conflict, the history books are going to go, the United States was able to incorporate, for this little proxy war on the other side of the world with Iran, they were able to incorporate Space Force, space surveillance. We already know that we used extensive amounts of drones. We used drone counter attack systems. We jammed radar. We did, I think you're going to find that as far as modern warfare is concerned, we are on the cutting edge of that warfare capacity, almost to the point, right? And this is one of the other things too, with the implementing of drone warfare. When we talk about the drone warfare, we think about these Saeed drones that are basically like, unmanned craft with a lawnmower engine on it, running a propeller with a big grenade on the tip, right? That is one thing. But there was also a lot of small drones. This is happening more over in Ukraine and Russia, these little small drones. I watched an interesting video yesterday with two infantrymen, and they were trying to defend against the new little version of drones. And they were talking about how much training they've had. These guys are like special forces retirees. And one guy's like, I'm worth about $10 million. And the other guy's like, oh, 10 million, I'm worth 15 million. I went to another special training school that you didn't go to. So they're trying to defend against this drone that's, I mean, we're talking like backyard racer drone. These guys are trying to shoot it with shotguns, couldn't even touch the thing. Finally, they had a special drone gun that has like a really huge bead, and they were able to hit the drone, but these guys were dead, right? And that was one of the things they said, the asymmetry in the battlefield, when you send a tier 1 operator in, they're very expensive, but they're very effective. Well, now you've got some kid that's literally like a video gamer sitting inside of who knows where with an Oculus set on, flying this drone that's going 100 miles an hour like a vulture, and it's just, you can't defeat them. It's like very, very scary. So we have another frontier of the battlefield coming, and America, this is, I think, why the AI race for the government is so important. It's not just about finding cures for cancer or writing good cover letters on your resumes. It's actually about trying to fight this new technological wave that is going to replace your normal battlefield soldier. Every soldier now is going to be equipped with an Oculus set instead of equipped with an M16. It's going to change things. So very interesting. So oil is dropping. We'll see how quickly it takes to hit the pump. We'll see if the trade deal sticks. We'll see if the world returns to a status of peace. Wouldn't it be interesting if we finished off the summer with no major world conflicts aside from Russia and Ukraine, and the pressure was on them to settle the conflict? You've already seen Zelensky say, hey, we're ready to talk peace. And Russia's into it too. So that's great. Yesterday on Liberty Lounge, if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, it's on the page, Liberty Lounge with Lisa and I. We talked a little bit about Seattle, and we talked also about our local situation with our sheriff. After this show streams, we're going to close down, and we're going to start streaming again on the Take Back My County page. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do. It's Take Back My County on Rumble. We're going to be streaming, and we're going to be streaming a local story. Absolutely devastating story for the Democrats, Ron. This is one of those stories that should cause our county, Kitsap County, to be absolutely up in arms with going on. And it touches the elections. It touches the Kitsap Auditor's Office. It touches the Kitsap Sheriff's Department office.
Oh, boy.
It is a scandal that broke out over the weekend that should absolutely invigorate the conservatives and the Republicans in this county who just cannot tolerate it anymore. There are dark secrets happening in our county that have bubbled up to the surface, as they always do, that we need to be made aware of. So after the show is done streaming, you need to go and listen to Take Back My County on Rumble. You'll see us streaming. It's one of the channels on our page. If you look up our channels, you can see it and subscribe. But we're going to do that story over there because it's extremely important. But yesterday on the Liberty Lounge show, we talked about this prostitution, and this pimp war happening over in Seattle next to Aurora Avenue.
Yeah.
So there was a large protest that went on over there. It was very organic. When you look at it, there were no factory-made signs. It was all handmade signs. Even some people I knew in the crowd. So this is a real neighborhood that's been affected by these pimp wars. We're talking hundreds, if not thousands of bullets have been flying just this year alone in these neighborhoods next to Aurora Avenue. Well, the FBI has gotten involved. In open air, you can see the FBI is actually out interviewing some of these prostitutes. There have been different people that have been taken into custody. This is all really good news. The FBI is on the streets in Seattle dealing with that, which again just goes to show the inept city and how they haven't been dealing with it. The fact that they have weaponized your virtue. Sex work is work and everybody needs a chance and blah, 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 has led to this pimp war. And you know what? I don't really care what your political ideology is. Part of the point of being an American citizen is you're supposed to be safe in your house, which means bullets aren't supposed to be flying.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to have a situation where bullets are flying and people are going to allow themselves to be disarmed.
Yeah, we
we
played a clip or a story last week or the week before where people were blocking off city streets,
Oh, the city got big mad. Yes, you can't do this. Well, they can't shoot on our streets. Like, take your choice. You can either have a planter box blockade, we'll make our own detour route, or you can come stop the shooting in our neighborhoods. Like, you pick. These are code violations. Pretty sure the bullets above my 6-week-old baby are also code violations. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, take your pick. So another thing that happened last week was we had another conspiracy theory come true.
Oh.
Another big old nasty, dirty conspiracy theory.
What was the theory?
5 years ago, this would have got you banned from YouTube and in the interwebs. This would have put you on the weaponization list. They would have come after you for everything you had. And this was with regards to biolabs in Ukraine.
Oh, no. I was going to say Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. So this has to do with biolabs in Ukraine. So Marco Rubio was asking, at the time he was a senator, and he was asking Victoria Nuland about biolabs in Ukraine.
Okay.
Now, Victoria Nuland, who is she? She was the ambassador to Ukraine, and she is one of the people that kicked off the color revolution in 2014 in Ukraine that overthrew their elected government and put in our own patsy. Okay. This is at the same time frame that Biden is on recorded phone calls with the president that they installed, where they were private. They were nationalizing Privat Bank, which was a private bank. They were nationalizing it. At the same time, they were issuing natural gas leases to the owner of Burisma, of which Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was sitting on the board, as well as Mitt Romney's chief of staff. So you had both sides in on this corruption. They were getting a special natural gas lease to take those natural resources. And of course, the money was getting funneled through this newly nationalized bank. What does that mean? It means that no one is going to audit the numbers but the government. And if the government's corrupt, now they have a bank that is under their umbrella, where they can clear these funds and launder the money without any suspicious eyebrows. And so all of this was happening simultaneously. And at the same time, you've got groups like USAID, NIH that are funding biolabs.
They're slinging money everywhere.
Yes. So when the Russian conflict breaks out, there's huge concern because it's like, hey, do we or don't we have biolabs over there? Because Russian media, who they will call propaganda, Russian media was trying to say that the United States is preparing to release a bioweapon, okay, out of these biolabs, which brought up the fact that the biolabs even existed. And that was what was being questioned by Marco Rubio to Victoria Nuland.
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that.
Okay, so she just confirmed that we have bioresearch labs in Ukraine. So Ukraine doesn't directly have bioweapons. Ron, our sound is horrible. Can we get a sound check on the outside? Does the sound okay to you guys, or is it just us in here? I feel like we have no top end.
I think it is just us at this point.
Okay, well then we'll live with it. But if our sound is funny out there in the interwebs, let us know. Okay, so she confirms that there's biolabs in Ukraine, not biological weapons per se. Okay, she confirms there's biolabs in Ukraine, and then is like, and we're afraid that the Russians might approach and take those weapons and then use them. Okay, so what you're saying is these biolabs aren't just studying, a rash. They're not just studying there's a weapon here, right? These diseases that you're working on in these labs could be converted into a weapon. And then they go on to do the ultimate act of projection and gaslighting. This is classic. Okay. They're going to say that it's the Russians who will accuse you of doing what they're going to do. Now, I'm going to go a step deeper, and I'm going to say that is a communist tactic. Conservatives don't even think of this. No. Like, it's not even on our rate. Like, I would never do that, so I don't assume that you're doing it, okay? But communists will do this. So in an act of projection, of deflection of liability and responsibility, they're going to gaslight you and seed the idea that any biological attack or weapon or leak must be the fault of the Russians.
The Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
That's exactly what you just did. That is exactly what you just did. Blame on the other guy.
Classic.
Plan on doing yourself. they did it. They totally did it. Frazier says, sound seems fine, but Taylor may have always sounded funny. Geez, yeah. I get you there. All right, so let's go back to last week and let's listen to what Tulsi Gabbard released. Remember, she's on her way out the door. She's on her way out the door. And this is critical, right? This is one of those massive moments in American history where we get a revelation that normally this information would be buried forever. It would stay in the realm of conspiracy theorists. But one of the ultimate people, I can't think of a better position to confirm or deny conspiracies than would be the Office of Director of National Intelligence, right? This office has access to all the most top secret information that our government has. And Tulsi Gabbard has been there, and she released this information. This is groundbreaking. So let's listen to her whole speech. This is as far as the deep state is concerned, this is their 9/11 moment.
After months of searching through intelligence community holdings and files, today I'm releasing new evidence of longstanding U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries. Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to longstanding threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage. Now, until now, evidence regarding the full existence and funding of these laboratories had been knowingly withheld from you, the American people. Many of these U.S. government-funded biolabs are currently or have previously engaged in research using hazardous and highly contagious pathogens, and in some cases included dangerous gain-of-function research with very little visibility or oversight. Now, President Trump clearly understands the serious threat dangerous gain-of-function research poses to the American people. And this is why he took decisive action over a year ago. On May 25th, 2025, he signed an executive order to end federal funding of gain-of-function research around the world. Here at ODNI, I issued new guidance to the intelligence community directing increased collection on these laboratories and facilities overseas. And we're already seeing the results of this increased collection. We're learning new details, for example, on clinical trials that are underway at these facilities and that are raising significant ethical, financial, and security concerns regarding the supposed public health initiatives and U.S. national security. Now, despite the obvious potential for catastrophic global impact that research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have, politicians and so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, as well as entities within the Biden administration's national security team, lied repeatedly to the American people about the existence of U.S. funded and supported biolabs.
This is important. Okay. They lied repeatedly about the existence of these biolabs. Let's jump over and listen to Jen Psaki here when she was asked about this after the Victoria Nuland thing. Complete and total denial.
Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment, we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
Today, that is the exact opposite of the truth. The exact opposite of the truth, right? We had the labs. Where did my... All right. We had the labs. They denied it. No, we don't have them. Russia's got them.
Right.
Tulsi Gabbard just told you.
The other guy.
They lied to you about something this important. They boldface put it on Russia. All the Russia nonsense. This plays in later. They were ignoring every other nation actor that was doing harm to the United States and constantly blaming everything on Russia. And they're not like perfect players in this game, right? But continuously, the Biden administration, the Obama lackeys, and the deep state intelligence operatives were continuously blaming on Russia and lying about this to us. All the threats that we said Russia would do this, it clearly lands on the United States was doing this.
Not only did they lie, they threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. So this release today breaks new ground, as the information surrounding the existence, history, locations, and funding of these U.S.-funded biolabs has been intentionally covered up by very powerful people who falsely claimed that these biolabs didn't exist. Now, they accuse anyone who says otherwise to be foreign assets and traitors to America. Now, ODNI will continue working closely with partners across the U.S. government to identify exactly where these labs are and what pathogens they contain to end dangerous gain-of-function research that threatens the health and well-being of the American people and people around the world.
We funded Wuhan. We funded these labs in Ukraine and 120 of them around the country. And notice how she said, we're going to go try to find them. So you found the funding. You found the information. Now you have to go find the labs. That's how disconnected our government is. It's so big, so bloated. When people say, well, I think Trump knows everything. I think Trump's in the dark to a lot of things. Just like you might have had CDC directors that had no idea that line items on their budget were going different places. In Kitsap County, some of the people involved in the sheriff's race got the sheriff's budget, right? And they can't read it. $20,000 went to KP 123789. What is that, right? It's like an insurance billing code. So it creates another step where now you have to FOIA whatever that number is to figure out what contract or where it's going.
Right.
Incredibly dense, hard information.
Now do that 100,000 times.
Do that
and then try to
100,000
connect
times.
all the dots.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck. All right, Ron, what do we got? A Rumble Wallet ad?
Yeah, let's try it out. Let's see what I can do here. Oh, yeah. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait in line for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now fast forward to today. Everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. And that's why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, and or bank card. Be set up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do it now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so some of this information that came out from Tulsi Gabbard here. The document shows many U.S. government agencies, universities, and companies linked to Ukrainian scientific institutions conducting dangerous research on the world's most dangerous pathogens. A table lists multiple research projects called TAPs on viruses such as highly pathogenic avian influenza, bird flu, African swine fever, and others. Many of these projects were completed or are ongoing. The U.S. funded Ukrainian scientists to study the genomes of highly dangerous viruses inside biocontainment labs that were also paid by the U.S. government. Some of the U.S. government agencies and contractors: Black & Vitek, major contractor. They appear multiple times. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and Metabiota. Hold that one in your mind for a second. Metabiota, because that has a Biden tie-in. Universities that participated in this research: University of Florida, University of Tennessee, Kansas State University. I knew there was something wrong with Kansas. University of New Mexico, University of Alaska Anchorage, and the JGI, the Joint Genome Institute. Other partners: Helmut Center for Environmental Research, Orion Sataso, and OIC, and then various Ukrainian entities. So in this report, it literally, it's showing the brands here. It's like, it's all there, the different viruses. Now, Metabiota was tied in. This was another one of these Ukrainian companies that had key investors from who? Rosemont Seneca. That was Hunter Biden and Christopher Heinz, John Kerry's stepson, and Devin Archer. They were key investors in Metabiota, right? So they were involved in this directly, funding it. Like,
this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
The funding, exactly, which makes more sense why, as Russia's getting hot and hot and hot, and Biden wins, Biden has to step in and defend Ukraine or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty crazy. So this is interesting. This is Greg Gutfeld, and he said this about this information that was released. He goes, "I came to the conclusion that this story is so awful. This story is so awful. The fact that we had labs, we covered them up. The whole war in Ukraine might be just part of this cover up, right? That we have no way to punish it. We have no way to punish it. To commit an appropriate measure of justice is beyond our willingness to do it. The amount of people that would need to go to jail and be punished is astronomical. You can't funnel that much money, have that much research, have that many universities involved, and adequately punish these people.
We're talking about thousands of people.
This is Nuremberg type stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking thousands of people, and you're talking probably thousands of people that were knowingly complicit. They knew these viruses were bad news for the planet, and you didn't have to do it. Right? Revelations 6 years later are pouring out so quickly that it is impossible to keep up. much less mentally process this. This is from Jeffrey A. Tucker. This is what Greg Gutfeld was quote tweeting. The director of national intelligence has documented 120 plus funded and owned biolabs in 30 countries, many of which are manufacturing and manipulating infectious diseases in contradiction to the law and the executive orders banning it. Senator Rand Paul's committee has received the receipts concerning the U.S. funding and backing of the manufactured SARS-CoV-2 virus, COVID, as part of this program. This was part of the program. Senator Johnson has produced definitive evidence that U.S. public health agencies knew of the grave dangers of the shot to everyone, but said nothing. When talk about it being a bioweapon, we try to blame it on China. And at the end of the day, that sounds like Russian propaganda. Blame on the other guy what you yourself are doing.
Right. You know, maybe I'm just really thick, but have you ever heard of like WD-40, how they came up with the name for that?
How?
Or like AK-47?
No, tell me. I mean, I know the WD-40. It's like it was like the 40th time that they tried.
Yeah, it was just the 40th iteration of whenever they were trying to come up with the formula. And you know, same thing with AK-47. It was just like that was the iteration. And I got thinking about that, how things get named, and I was like, that's really weird how we were able to name COVID-19 after the year 2019 before 2019 happened. I was like, that's really odd. How does that happen?
It was the release date, Ron.
Sure.
That's exactly what it was, wasn't it? It was the release.
But what you need to understand there is like, well, that's really fun to say, well, yeah, that's the release date. But you need to understand that they do this for everything. They name everything like this, and they all have iteration names. And if we want to like get a handle on when the next COVID-19 thing's going to happen, we need to start looking at the names of the stuff they're working on.
Yeah, that they're patenting.
Right? Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Why would they need to patent it? Oh, so they can make money on it? Oh, okay. Let's go back to the show.
Many officials are privately admitting and proving that the whole point of the lockdowns was to preserve population immunity for the shot and block other avenues towards wellness. They wanted to prevent us from just getting herd immunity by interacting with each other and letting the virus get weaker and weaker. Nope, lock everybody down, make them more susceptible, get them the vaccine. That causes mass deaths. People who are dead can't question where the virus came from.
And hopefully you get more variants, and some of those are a lot more deadly than the ones that are going away.
Yeah. And of course, the headlines are starting to come out. Millions experience COVID-19 vaccine side effects. 50% suspect COVID-19 vaccines cause deaths. COVID-19, 51% suspect heart damage from vaccine. This is devastating. And the scale of it is so big, we will probably never see actual accountability. Now, Nick Shirley was interviewing Deplorable D. Good morning, Patriots. Glad you made it. I saw Victoria on the protest in Aurora the other day. D. So Nick Shirley was at the in DC, and he was talking with Ed Martin, who's the pardon attorney. He was supposed to be the DC attorney for the District of Columbia, but Tom Tillis tanked that nomination, so Jeanine Pirro got it. But he's talking about the pardons, because some of the pardons that came out right at the end were to people like Dr. Anthony Fauci.
All right, yeah. So I'm gonna run that again because it might have cut out. Perfect. So you're standing right here. So you're the United States pardon attorney.
Yes, sir.
Here inside the United States, obviously.
Right.
Just before Biden left office, literally a few hours before, he started signing a lot of pardons.
Correct.
Well,
one of those sort of. The auto pen started signing a lot of pardons. Go ahead. Yeah.
And one of those people was Anthony Fauci.
Yes.
What's the truth about?
Well, look, I mean, one thing,
Anthony Fauci's pardon.
Well, one thing you started out, let me just explain to folks. The pardon power is in the Constitution, and it basically says, I'm summarizing, the president can pardon anybody he wants for any reason he wants. There's not a procedure set up. There's not a system. It's really the founders knew that there were times where you needed to write something that was wrong or do something you wanted, and that's what they gave them. So it's anything, any president can pardon anybody. With regard to the end of a term, Biden was in a rush down the stretch, or his staff was, and they were pardoning all kinds of people. They did all kinds of commutations at the last minute, all with the auto pen. The only signature on pardons that you see with a wet pen is Hunter Biden, which was signed at Thanksgiving. All the rest are auto pen, which begs another question. But most importantly, you can see, and these are email exchanges where Fauci, Dr. Fauci's lawyer is saying, will there be pardons for Fauci? And then in the morning of January 20th, and just in time for the change of the presidency, Fauci got his pardon. And you have to accept, under American law, the one thing the Supreme Court has said is you have to accept the pardon. So Fauci immediately had his lawyer say, I accept the pardon, and sent that in. So they were very aware that they needed that and they wanted it.
So everyone was wondering if the pardons issued by AutoPen were legal. And according to this, they are, so they can't really be challenged. However, the pardon system was not meant to be done the way that Joe Biden's presidency did it. It was originally meant for mercy or public benefit, just cases that the justice system got wrong. It was not meant to be a blanket pardon for everybody, all your friends that were criminals who did a lot of things wrong. And as far as the Anthony Fauci pardon goes, you know, everyone wants him to pay for what happened under COVID-19. And there's one way that we can still get him, and that is that, let's see here, crimes against humanity. Can it be pardoned? And the answer is no. Crimes against humanity cannot be pardoned.
So basically,
that's where I want to end the show.
United States pardon, but he doesn't have an international pardon. That's where we're at. These crimes, Anthony Fauci was desperate to get a pardon. Why?
Right.
If you listen to the news, there'd be no reason.
He was just doing his job.
Now, the projection here is we're just on Trump's hit list. We're his political enemies, and he's going to seek retribution. Well, I'll tell you, as far as seeking retribution, Trump sucks at it. Okay. Absolutely sucks at it. You have to have committed a real crime for the Trump administration to come after you. But nonetheless, they were absolutely desperate to get a pardon. Why? Because they knew what they were doing. That's the significance of this Tulsi Gabbard release. It puts this issue to bed. These guys were breaking the law openly and brazenly, and they involved thousands of people in their criminal activity. People who, by the way, could have brought about and still may bring about the end of the world as we know it.
Right. Stop being complicit.
As we know it. It's the end of it. But seriously, it's very serious. Like, this is so big, I don't know that we'll ever see any actual accountability, because the amount of accountability would be so violent that Americans probably couldn't just tolerate it. Too many Americans are gaslit. There are still Americans out there with their Fauci dolls, and we still see people wearing masks.
Oh, yeah.
The PSYOP was made complete for sure. Right. And certain states jumped on board with this, like in Washington State. If they do another vaccine mandate, good luck. Get out now. You're not running from it. I mean, if you have a job, you got kids in school, you're getting it. They're going to chase you around with a needle based on that nonsense. Right. Talk about the deep state. Talk about the deep state. So Hunter Biden was doing an interview with Gavin Newsom on Gavin Newsom's podcast.
How sweet.
And offered to run as vice president. Yeah, he said, quote, "No Democrat has won the White House this century without a Biden on the ticket." Hunter Biden thinks it's probably a good idea to put him on as vice president. And so I'm not dead serious. These guys were like, I mean, what's the big deal with a crack addict and whatever? It's like, you know, it's not just that we saw you naked. It's not just that you've become like a meme of ridiculousness. It's that you had financial crimes. You had sex crimes against children on your laptop.
I think that's what he feels qualifies him.
Dude, no kidding, right? Yeah, someone posted here, 80% people did not vote for this pluck. But Hunter Biden's dead serious. And here's the thing. If we don't get our hands around this election system, we're going to end up with more of this. This is a city council in Hamtramck, Michigan. Okay, in Hamtramck, Michigan. This was their city council this week. Listen, if we don't get the Save America Act passed and we don't get actually serious about taking back our local counties, there's going to be more of this in more and more places around the country.
Right.
This is Michigan.
I can do the same thing every council meeting. Yeah. I can, and I can make the decision. You can do everyone. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. This is how it's affected.
I think the question here is who brought this resolution? The original.
Very good. No. You can't back down. No. You can't back down. My question is, he's not outside. No. He's kidding. Come back. He's speaking right now. I'm speaking. Enough. Behavior. Your behavior is very bad. Okay, very in the back. Because you are very disrespectful. You are my father to censor like outside business. Are you my parenting?
I am speaking, man. You are very disrespectful, man. We got to get control of our elections.
Wow.
This is bad. Violence in my neighborhood to go away. And this is what you walk into? Oh, man.
I wonder if you could get 3 minutes in there.
The Post says, hard to believe this is America. It's hard to believe.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Markwayne Mullins was on CNN and he was being asked about the potential of sending ICE agents to the polling centers. And he was pretty clear. Yeah, we might do it.
Of course, the Department of Homeland Security has historically played an important role in protecting our elections. The president recently signed an executive order to build a state-by-state citizenship list of eligible voters. What is your department? What is DHS going to do with voter information?
Well, we're going to make sure that our Constitution is upheld, meaning that only citizens of the United States are voting. That's the most important thing we can do to protect the integrity of our election. Our federal election cycle is the most important thing we can do for America. It's what saves America, which is why the SAVE Act is so vitally important. What we want to make sure is that every vote actually counts, that we're not having games like you might see in sanctuary cities. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying, but why wouldn't we want to make sure that it's safe? People say that the Democrats always want to throw out the Constitution all the time. Well, great. Let's throw out the Constitution. It's very clear that, not throw it out, but throw it out as an argument. But sorry, I'm glad you had that look on your face.
That did make me raise an eyebrow.
I know.
Yes.
I meant throw out the Constitution as an excuse. Is say that if we're going to actually live up to the Constitution, which is what we all swore to uphold, then one thing that is vital that we can't argue about is the only people that should be voting in federal elections are true American citizens. That is clear. And so what the president is doing and what we're wanting to do is make sure that those individuals are the only ones voting.
The Heritage Foundation has.
You'd think that would be simple enough, right? Yeah. Only Americans should vote in elections. But we've got problems, folks. Down in LA, the Spencer Pratt election.
Yeah.
Look at this. So this is how the votes came in. So mail-ins arriving before election day. Okay. Karen Bass had 38%.
All right.
No surprise there. These are the Democrats that are going to mail in their votes early. If you're an active Democrat, just think about the psychological element of this. You're a real American. You're a real Democrat, and you've been told by your party, get your ballot in. Right. We go to our campaign meetings and it's like, go vote, go vote, go vote. They go to their campaign meetings and they're like, vote, 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 fill out your ballot, mail it right now. Okay. So the early ballots, I suspect the majority of them are real people.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Okay. They're real people. They're getting their ballots in early. They want it to be counted. They're civically engaged. I'm sure there's fake ballots in there. I'm sure of it. Yeah, but I think if you are a mail-in voter, the chances of you being an early mail-in voter are much higher than being a late mail-in voter. Okay. Mm-hmm. The in-person votes. So these are real people who are going to show up to vote. 35% went for Spencer Pratt. So these are going to be obviously a lot of Republicans. I'm a real person. I show up, I vote, right? 29% for Karen Bass. So this right here with the in-person day of and the early arriving mail-ins, it would have been Bass and Pratt at the top of the ticket.
Yep.
Mail-ins arriving after election day. Rahman got 37%. She beat Karen Bass at an 80% increase.
Wow.
Bass got 35%, 10% decline from her other average, and Pratt only 19%. Okay.
Weird.
Got a third less than the others. That to me looks like fraud on its surface. Mm-hmm. On the All In podcast, right? These guys are a mix of old Democrats who support Trump, and some of them don't support Trump, but they've got this All In podcast. This was broke down. You don't have elections anymore. these guys are looking at California and they're just like, this is not democracy.
The election system in Los Angeles, specifically in California, corrupt? And is this election been stolen from Spencer Pratt, or is it just...
There is no election.
There was no election.
There is no election.
Okay. So there is no spoon.
Your rights to have an election are gone. You are a citizen of those who tell you who your overseers are. You are no longer allowed to vote for your elected representatives. They are now appointed representatives. So enjoy the appointments that have been made for you. Appointed by those who have constructed the matrix.
Got it. Now we understand the background. There is no spoon.
Agent Smith and all the Agent Smiths are in charge. So here's some statistics for you. In-person voting the day of the election in Los Angeles County for mayor, Spencer Pratt, 35%, Karen Bass, 29%, Nithya Raman, 26%. Mail-in ballots received before Election Day, 38% for Bass, 28% for Pratt, 20% for Raman. And then all these ballots that arrive after Election Day, 37% for Raman, 35% for Bass, 19% for Pratt. So Pratt's post-election mail-in ballots declined by 1/3. So statistically, the population of people that send in their ballots late reduced for Pratt by 1/3, increased for Nithya Raman by 80%, and Karen Bass 10% less. If you just look at the mail-in ballots before and after Election Day as a comparison. I don't know if there's a socio-political way that you can assess those statistics and assume that these are individuals casting their individual vote for who they think should be mayor of LA. And Nick, if you'll just pull up the map, which I think is worth taking a look at, basically the concentration of incremental votes that Nithya Raman got came around the Skid Row area in Los Angeles. And look, I'm not an election denier. I'm not someone who's historically believed the idea that elections are fraud and people have stolen votes. But when you look at the basic statistics of what happened in person, mail in before, mail in after Election Day, it becomes a real statistical quagmire on how did this sort of a socio-political shift happen in such a way that it did. Now, there was a report published, Nick, if you could pull this up, by the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on House Administration. This was published in May of 2020. And they highlighted the 2018 California midterm elections and the challenges they saw arise in that midterm elections because of some of the legislative changes that were made. First, California Assembly Bill 1921 legalized the practice of unlimited ballot harvesting in the state. This was passed around 2018, around the midterms. What that means is that any individual in the state of California has the right to go and collect ballots from any other individuals, regardless of relationship, fill them out, and send them in. California, 2 years later, 18 months later, also passed a law that made it permanent that every person registered in the state of California would get a ballot. So tens of millions of ballots then get mailed out. Then there was another series of laws that were passed that said anyone can register to vote. You don't need to prove your citizenship. You can use a gym membership card as an example. So anyone can register to vote. There is no proof of ID when you get a ballot. There is no demonstration that the person who fills out the ballot has anything to do with the individual who's supposed to be voting that ballot. And it is legal for an individual to go out and collect hundreds or thousands of ballots, ship them in, and they will all qualify in these kind of mail-in ballot voting processes. So there's nothing illegal or fraudulent going on. In fact, the system is operating exactly as intended. It has been set up and structured in a way that with the right construct, you can get an individual appointed, not elected, but appointed to a particular role in government under a, quote, free election in California. This is a foundational destruction of our rights to vote for people in a free democracy. I feel it's been eroded slowly over time to such an extent now, and I'm not some crazy MAGA motherfucker or whatever people want to classify me as for pointing this out. But you can go down this list. They are all written out in this document. Every one of these laws that were passed in California over time that in aggregate create the environment and the construction for elections to become appointments and no longer free democratic elections where the principle, very importantly, the principle should be one individual, one vote. And if you opt to not vote, your vote should not be counted. So I think that there's no fraud. I don't think there's anything.
It sounds like you believe there's massive fraud.
Yeah, I think this is not fraud. This is the way the laws are set up.
It's not fraud.
It's the way the law is set up.
And this is the scary part, right?
Yeah.
When he says it's appointed by the people who built the matrix. What's the matrix? It's the laws. It's the laws that allow the mail-in voting, the ballot harvesting, the ballots being sent to everybody who's ever registered ever, and their dogs, cats, and dead grandparents.
Right. And that last gentleman was correct where he said it's not fraud, it's just manipulation. And it's like, yeah.
Yes.
Dang it.
It's one big club and you ain't in it.
Yeah.
And that's just it. As conservatives, we're like, this has to be fraud. The whole thing is fraud.
Right.
The whole thing is fraud. It's such fraud that it can stink to high heaven. But what are you going to do about it? You literally have no crime to charge. Manu from CNN was asking Mike Johnson about this.
The president keeps saying that there's election fraud in the California mayor's race. What evidence is there to prove that?
You tell me, Manu. They are counting votes weeks after the election. We have entire nations with huge populations like India that can count their votes in 24 to 40
You're saying it's rigged like the president?
I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm saying it stinks to high heaven, and everybody knows that. Let's remove the appearance of impropriety. Let's have what a concept. Let's have votes on an election the day of the election. That's what many states are able to do. I think California is playing around with this.
But what evidence is there to prove that there was rigged?
I don't. Some of these efforts are so diabolical and so far upstream it is impossible to prove. But I think everybody knows.
And that's what he's talking about.
Exactly.
They're so diabolical and so far upstream because they happened in the legislature. They sealed the deal, right? This isn't about a Skid Row guy signing a ballot that wasn't his. That's a problem. That's 5 years in jail. Right. But what this is about is the fact that you institutionalize the idea that that's okay and that those ballots will be counted unless, of course, you get caught. We'll probably have already counted the ballot, though. Right. We're never going to adjust the ballots for the cheating.
Well, the guy that we wanted in the position of power will definitely be in the position of power by then.
Yes.
Something is wrong here. And that's a concern. We need people to believe in the integrity of our election system. It is critical to maintain a constitutional republic. We're going to keep working to pass the Save America Act, because it requires, as you know, proof of citizenship and a ID to vote. Those are also 90% plus issues in public opinion, and 70% of Democrats understand that's necessary.
Aren't you all just saying that because you've lost the election because the Republicans did not win in this race? This is why you're hearing that?
I'm saying that every leader of all parties should demand election integrity. And if somebody is opposing that, you should look at their motives. That's what I'm saying.
And you shouldn't look at it and go, well, they followed all the rules. Your rules are ridiculous. And they opened the door to fraud. Now, thank goodness Spencer Pratt is not out of the fight. Okay. He's decided he's going to continue campaigning, but he's going to do it in a different tact. He's not on a ballot. So now with all the media attention he has, he's going to come after these guys for everything they've got.
Now that the campaign portion of my mission to save Los Angeles is coming to a close and I'm moving on to the next, more interesting phase, listen, I've spent a lot of time slaying everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take the chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. You think you can get rid of me that easily? I know a lot of dim-witted jerks thought I was in this for a grift, that I was going to roll up and leave town if I didn't get into City Hall. It's just not fair. Hey, morons, I didn't get in this for political power. I got in this to expose this corrupt machine, and nothing has changed. You enjoy your worthless meetings in City Hall.
Nifty, you have all this information. You're running for mayor. Show what you're really about, or get the fuck out of the race.
I'm going to be lighting you up every single day, and now I don't have to worry about offending CNN viewers. I don't have a campaign laws hamstringing me now. It's war. It's 0 hour for Los Angeles. Angelinos are now stuck with 2 morons responsible for all their problems, and they have to choose between dumb and dumber. That's not a choice. That's the machine protecting the machine. And now every problem that plagues Los Angeles because of these 2 corrupt communists is going to accelerate, and the city will tumble headlong into the abyss. You have no idea how many major developers, hoteliers, business owners, entrepreneurs have been texting me saying they're packing up and leaving town. More of your favorite restaurants will be shuttering. That means less tax revenue. That means the city has to cut services. More potholes, less firefighters, less police patrols, more criminals, more drug addicts terrorizing your communities. And we haven't ended it. You have no idea how bad things are about to get for this city. Look at this place already. Weeds growing from every crack and crevice, graffiti over every square inch of public space, garbage, drugs, feces, burned up dogs, burned down towns, abandoned storefronts. This city is a mess, and you're about to reward the arsonist who torched the place with 4 more years of destruction? I know he's very bitter. My goal hasn't changed. I've been laser focused on stopping these commie animals, and I will stop them. If you think we uncovered a lot of fraud and evil in the campaign, just wait. We have some recordings of one of your exalted candidates doing and saying something that would make her resign in shame. I was saving it for the general election. Go ahead and pick your demon, certify your choice, and then you get to see it. So Karen Nithya, ask yourself, is it possible that one of your employees may have a recording of you doing or saying something that would force you to resign in disgrace? Hope you sleep well at night over the next 5 months, because you know who hasn't slept well at all for the last 17 months? My mom. All my neighbors in the Palisades. All the moms who worry about their kids walking past drug addicts in front of their schools. All the business owners getting crushed in the LA economy, worried that they can't stay in business and feed their kids. Angelinos have been struggling for years now, all while corrupt politicians and fraudulent NGOs profit off the misery and fleece us for the tax dollars. Well, now we're flipping the script. I want all of you awake at night sweating and worried about 5 a.m. when the FBI blazers bust in the door, breaking open your office, because I assure you, they're coming. You think your election was going to stop me? If you want to stop me,
you're going to have to fucking kill me!
So
that's
he's coming,
a rant.
baby. He's coming. Do one of your staffers have a recording of you saying or doing something that would cause you to resign in shame? Yeah, every day. That's going to be interesting. They burned down his campaign office, by the way.
Oh, really?
Weekend. Yeah, they burned down his campaign office. Probably hoping the tape was in there. Hopefully they've got it on a secure cloud somewhere. Anyways, pretty incredible. What do we got, Ron?
Oh, let's check it out.
Rumble.
We got a Rumbles. Oh, shoes. It's not going to let me do it.
Oh, come on. Come on, Rumble.
Jeez.
It gets so cranky sometimes. Rumble, we're trying to make you some money.
Hit limit? Something around? Whatever. I guess we can't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Lame. All right. So that's pretty good. I look forward to hearing some of that. Now, Donald Trump appointed what's his name? To replace Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, the ODNI.
Polte. He appointed Polte into that spot. The Democrats and Republicans alike flipped out over Polte going over there.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely flipped out. And so Donald Trump did finally nominate the final person who's going to go into that person, Jay Clayton, out of the Southern District of New York. The Southern District of New York has recently handled the Ghislaine Maxwell case, the P. Diddy case. They handled the
they did Epstein stuff, right?
They did Epstein stuff. They also they've handled a lot of the Russiagate stuff came out of there, the Wiener laptop. There's quite a bit that has happened.
Oh, what about that pipe bomber guy?
Ryan Cole? No, they didn't handle that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but Jay Clayton's up there at the SDNY.
Okay.
And so he's been nominated and he's considered, highly respected, blah, 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 blah. Well, the Democrats and Republicans have decided to fast track his nomination. They're having hearings for his nomination this week.
Wow.
I mean, Trump's had people who sat around on their nomination for 6 months. And this one, all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, get him in there. Get him in there. No Bill Pulte. No Bill Pulte. That's how desperate they are to make sure Bill Pulte doesn't have any time in that office, right? They're fast tracking his nomination. Now, Sam Faddis, former CIA agent, and Steve Bannon addressed this. This is not a good sign.
Good guy, but let's be blunt. He's not a prosecutor. He's head of Sullivan and Cromwell, which is Goldman Sachs's, supposed to do I'm sure they're the guys all over the prospectus for SpaceX, or at least one of them in the underwriting. John Foster Dulles' old firm, right? These are the globalists of the globalist. He didn't do a bang-up job at Southern District. He was put in Southern District, and quite frankly, the Southern District is rotten to the core. Everybody there ought to be blown out, and he didn't get rid of virtually nobody. He was intimidated, and now they're sending him over to DNI. If you think that he is going to get into the files on the stolen election of 2020, you're kidding yourself. It's not going to happen. This is a win for the Tom Cottons of the world. And when they say, oh, they want to cut DNI, it's not going after the deep state and getting rid of the deep state elements, Sam. They want to downsize the overall the authority so that the CIA can be paramount. Sam Faddis, sir.
Yeah, we just hit the nail on the head. That is, in fact, actually the plan, to have a DNI that is irrelevant, the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, and CIA runs the show, and the deep state is untouched. Anything that happens otherwise is cosmetic. Look, the whole IC and CIA at the heart of it, probably more, as much or more than anybody else, is combat ineffective. Let's start with that. I mean, we're in the middle of a war, and I think it's pretty friggin' clear that the intelligence that we're being provided to the commander in chief is grotesquely inadequate. Then we have the whole part where the IC has abused, that shouldn't be within 10 miles of Americans and their rights, and American domestic politics has been targeting Americans. So this is not a just let's take over a functioning, it's in pretty good shape kind of thing. This has to be dramatic. People have to be fired. Entire chunks of this edifice need to be destroyed. Files need to be opened. So my question is, regardless of who's going to take this position or anything else, are we actually going to do any of that? Because right now we're not doing that. We have not drained the swamp. We haven't changed fundamentally anything. This is a giant stay behind program by the deep state. They go to ground, they dig in, they wait out Trump. Boom. The next thing you know, we'll be on the other side of it. We won't have fixed a blessed thing.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like it's just going to be another waited out. Hopefully Tulsi Gabbard just releases something new every day between now and time she leaves, because I've got a feeling when Jay Clayton gets in there, it's going to be business as usual, business as usual. And what business is that? Well, one of the big things that's going to start happening right away is the United States is going to take all that attention. We used to focus on ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and then we turned on to J6ers and Moms for Liberty and whatever. They're going to take that energy, that industrial complex, and they're going to go after the cartels in Southern America. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. So late last week, we actually missile launched and bombed the leader of the Tren de Agua gang in Venezuela. And we did this in coordination with the Venezuelan government. So no international crimes committed, but we literally bombed his house. Okay, took him out. So they're going after the gang members now, and not just in Venezuela, but Ecuador and other countries in South America as well.
Should Americans understand that the U.S. will remain militarily involved in Venezuela? Should they expect similar operations in places like Ecuador and Guatemala, where the U.S. is working with their governments?
Yes, they should. It's called the America's Counter Cartel Coalition, ACCC, and we're forming it with partner governments all around Central and South America to go after, defeat, and destroy foreign terrorist organizations, drug cartels. And all those countries you named are stepping up to work on partnerships with the United States, where we work with their governments and their militaries with their special capabilities and our special capabilities to hunt terrorist networks in our own hemisphere, just like we showed we were very good at with ISIS and Al-Qaeda in the Middle East for 20 years. It's an incredible reinforcement of the Monroe Doctrine, now the Dunroe Doctrine. We're taking back control of our hemisphere and ensuring the poisoning and attacks on the American people end. So it's a beautiful military thing to behold. Other countries coming to us to work with us, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
We could see a future where the only drugs that are in our country come from the government itself, because there might not be any drug dealers left to do it. It'd be kind of interesting.
I personally think that our government is the source already.
This is the CIA. You go into the deeper stuff, and it's like the CIA was behind Cuba and the CIA was behind Venezuela, and it starts to make you really question that. You've got this deep
Barry Seals.
you've got this deep opaque government entity that can generate its own funding. That was the whole point of the Iran-Contras. We need money off the budget, so we got to make it. So now they became entrepreneurs out there in the world. So the solution to this is always fix the money, fix the world, right? Part of the problem we have is the free money printer and the fact that we Americans end up financing all this stuff and paying the interest on it. Cynthia Lumens, who's the senator from Wyoming, she's being known as the Bitcoin senator, right? She was on an interview with CoinDesk, and she talked about Bitcoin. So before we leave for today and head over into private, and when we get into private, we're going to be talking about secret societies, and we're going to be talking about an FBI raid on someone in Dallas that should make you kind of chill, right? It's just one of those things where you got to be eyes open to things. But this is Cynthia Lumen talking about Bitcoin. Again, you guys, signal, not noise. Bitcoin is the future for a lot of reasons, and Cynthia Loomis lays these out in bullet point form.
How you communicate what's going on in this industry in just a second. But our last Spotlight episode featured Michael Saylor, and he really kind of unpacked his plan towards this $200 trillion Bitcoin network. You mentioned him as one of the people you speak to about what's going on in this industry. You listen to what he has to say. Do you think that Bitcoin can be a $200 trillion network?
I do. When you look at the fact that it is fully decentralized, that it is immutable, that it is scarce, that as more of it is mined, the volatility is going to decline. Its use cases will expand. All of these events surrounding it as it matures as an asset are going to make it more useful. It is faster. It is cheaper. The Lightning Network that now can lay on top of it makes it more useful as a means of exchange. Its continued growth as a store of value is going to be, I think, its strongest future use. When you look at the US dollar, that because of inflation is declining in value every year much more quickly than we'd like to see, its use case as a store of value is not good. Its use case as a means of exchange is very strong, always will be. But if I was going to save, I'd want to save in Bitcoin, not in US dollars. So I think we're seeing more and more people realize that because it's immutable, because it's easy to store and retain either in an individual wallet or through a custodian, it's easy to buy now because of the exchange traded funds that have been created by very blue chip companies that people are used to using for all kinds of investments. It's become more available and user friendly for people who are more used to traditional assets. And I think all these things, when you add them together, have expanded the use case for Bitcoin.
I think so too. I'm all on board. I love it when a sitting senator goes, I wouldn't save in dollars. Like, yes, you got it. I wouldn't save in dollars. Stu Smith posted this, and this is great. Bitcoins will do to banks what email did to the post office.
Yep.
Hashtag Bitcoin. Yep, exactly. All right, we're going to jump over to private now, you guys. We're going to be talking about an FBI raid on a multi-billionaire's house down in Texas. And then we're going to be talking about secret societies and how that ties into the deep state. So join us over there. I think.
Hold on. I'm going to try this one more time.
All right, let's do it.
Before we go, just in case. Nope.
Jeez,
damn,
man.
All right.
All right. Jumping over to private. And do not forget, as soon as we're done with our private stream, we're going to do Take Back My County. You can follow that. It's one of our channels. And we're going to be covering a Kitsap story that involves the sheriff's department. It involves the auditor's department, who's in charge of elections, and a scandal and a crime so big it will make your blood run cold. If you are in Kitsap County, if you are a PCO, if you are a conservative, if you care about elections and you care about accountability, you need to listen to that episode. So pay attention.
Here we go.
Okay, so here we are in private. So back in the day, there was a real estate developer named Tim Barton in Dallas,